Hello, this is Dragon Blitz here, and this is going to be a commentated run of two separate no-hit challenges that I did earlier this week. So starting out, we're going to be doing the Maria no-hit challenge speedrun, showing you guys the final attempt here. This took me about 6 or 7 tries, I can't remember exactly how many, but the goal at the end of the day was to get through to the end of the game without taking any damage. And to a certain extent, I was keeping speed in mind, because specifically for Maria, we're going to get into it a little bit. She has a spell, the 4 Beast spell, that makes her fully invincible. Normally in a speedrun scenario, it costs a lot of MP, but in a speedrun scenario, you really only use it for boss fights to get through the boss fights quicker, because you do extra damage when you're in the 4 Beasts mode. Not only are you fully invincible, you're also doing damage to enemies as you collide into them, and with your kicks and jumps attacks, all of those do extra damage as well. So starting off, you're seeing already some advanced movement from Maria. I guess I should explain, this is the Sega Saturn version of Maria, not the version of Maria that some of you may be used to by playing either the PSP or Requiem versions of the game. That's a completely different character, all things considered. This version of Maria has 3 jumps while in the air. She has a grounded slide, which is usually her fastest form of ground movement. She has a kick attack as well. If you dash right there, I just did it, dash into a kick, it does this jumping kick attack, which is really fast on the ground as well. Useful for killing weaker enemies. She has this really aggressive diagonal gravity jump, which is really fun to control. It has multiple different angles depending on how long you hold up forward when you're doing the down into up forward motion. It's really fun. You actually get to see an extended version of those gravity jumps right here in this room, as long as I don't bonk my head. There we go. So this aggressive angle is really only possible with Maria to get through this room that quickly. It's really awesome. But yeah, because this is the Sega Saturn version of the game as well, we're going to be noticing extra load zones and extra slowdown in specific areas. Like right here, there's a loading zone because of the memory limitations of the Sega Saturn. But yeah, the goal is to get through the game relatively quickly without taking any damage. These black crows are a little bit tricky to get through if you mess up your spacing there. This area in general is the fastest way to get to the second castle, going through the chapel. However, these hallways with all the enemies just tightly wound in there can be troublesome. I've definitely taken damage there on some of the attempts, just misspacing those kick attacks, or the randomly spawning spear guards. Those are also an issue that can happen. Here you're going to be seeing the 4 Beast spell for the first time. It takes a few seconds to charge up, but in doing so, Maria's going to be glowing green, and I'm going to be doing tons of damage with this uppercut attack. I think it critical hit 320 damage on Hippogriff there. So I was able to kill Hippogriff in just 2 uppercut attacks. But you can see my MP bar, the blue bar that's next to my HP. Wow, I barely made it through those groups of enemies. I can't believe that. Yeah, my MP bar is very low. Maria doesn't regen her MP unless she's either standing still or, I believe, neutral running or jumping. These kick attacks don't actually, it pauses the MP regen timer. Same with doing those gravity jumps. They actually cost MP, so you can't regen MP while you're doing it. So her MP regen is actually quite fast, but you have to basically either be standing still or only be normal running, and normal running is pretty slow. So finding time to regen MP in between spells is a big deal for both speedrunning Maria and also attempting to just not get hit, because we're going to see later I'm going to be using that 4 Beast spell in one more room in the game that's a little trickier than the than most rooms. So also I get to explain that there is a fun glitch that is Sega Saturn exclusive that Maria gets to take advantage of in the chapel area in the second castle. So when that comes up, I'll explain that. It's a little jarring at first, but it's really cool. But yeah, this is another room that gave me a lot of trouble, the tombstones. So when you're doing this kick attack with Maria, it can get canceled by those tiny little slopes that you see that I'm running, I'm trying to avoid. Yeah, I had to reset right there. You saw the kick get canceled by the slope. Wow, I can't believe I didn't get hit there. Yeah, I lost a few runs in that room from taking damage to the tombstones, because if you just miss space the kick attack, it cancels it completely, and you have no hitbox going forward, and the tombstones just hit you. The balloon pods can also be a little troublesome here, so I'm taking kind of a slow route around the tombstones. Here, the balloon pods have like kind of a bugged hitbox, so I opted to use the 4 beast spell to get through this area, because otherwise if you try to slide through the balloon pods, it like won't break them all the time. And now after this, I'm going to be waiting for my MP to regen so I can use a flame spell on Medusa here. I guess while we take this time and wait for my MP, if you made it this far into the video, leave a comment and let me know that you made it this far, and let me know if you're enjoying these kinds of commentated runs. I might do more of these in the future. Well, I am going to be doing at least one more for Alucard, no damage, after this. And here we go. I forget the exact name of this spell. It's like a Hadouken input, you know, quarter circle forward and then her like attack button. But it's quite powerful. It's used for killing bosses, and it takes a decent amount of MP. But here, I just have to be careful. I'm cutting these like jump kicks a little bit short so I can jump over the balloon pods, and then here is where the out of bounds happens. So what you're attempting to do is you're trying to backdash in a specific spot and then hold forward. And there, yep, it basically kind of loads you in between the two rooms. I forget exactly why it happens, but it basically just opens up a means for you to just go out of bounds. So I'm skipping a big portion of the chapel here, like the imp room with all the randomly spawning imps and like goth snipers, I believe is the name of the enemy. Yeah, that area is just completely skipped, and we can go straight into the inverted Colosseum from here. The inverted Colosseum is a little scary. I'm going to be using Guardian Knuckle here. It gives you a lot of invincibility frames, so it allows me to skip past these Minotaurs pretty easily. But looking at my MP is extremely low. If you're doing a normal speed run of Maria, you would normally go through the top route of the Colosseum, but there's a room with a bunch of werewolves and Minotaurs that in the speed run you are routed in taking damage. You damage boost off of that room. But because this is a no damage challenge, I am of course going to be sitting here waiting for my MP to recharge, because again we're going to be using the 4 beast spell for the invincibility, because getting past this room and the werewolf room afterwards is not super reliable with Maria's kit. She doesn't have like a ton of ways to get invincibility outside of Guardian Knuckle. Guardian Knuckle also is kind of like slow on the ground, so 4 beast just ends up being a lot safer here. And I'm glad I used it, because I did cancel my kick there. If you run into a wall while you're doing a jumping kick attack, you basically lose all of your momentum. So, and then here I could just slide through the werewolves without having to deal with trying to find a way to jump over them or anything like that. But yeah, that's basically the majority of the difficult part of this run taken care of. There's some movement stuff that can be a little difficult. That was a little bit of an input mistake there to go back into the room. But here, there's one more Asgal that I am sitting here thinking, how do I want to deal with it? I'm just going to kick over him and jump around. It's fine. But yeah, I think this is a fun little way to show off a lot of the movement that only Maria gets access to in the Sega Saturn version of the game. It's a rare chance to see her get used. For whatever reason, whenever Konami ports this game to modern consoles and like phones and stuff like that, they always use the PSP version of Maria, which is quite sad. This version of Maria is very powerful, very fun to use and move around with, has really unique spells and attacks, but she is forever stuck on the Sega Saturn version of the game, which we all know is never coming back, unfortunately. But yeah, we're waiting for the clock door to open, and this is the end of the game. The final fight is versus Shaft here. And the Shaft fight is going to be very similar to how we handled the Hippogriff fight. Again, we are going to be using the 4 Beast spell, because it just does so much damage in combination with her uppercut attack. So here I did a backdash, and then I hid part of the 4 Beast input in the backdash. It was like a little bit of a input buffer trick, kind of. But yeah, one of the nice things that's about using the 4B spell as well is it also helps reduce lag because you don't get the shadows that follow behind Maria when she moves. So this is also a fun little lag reduction strat, but there it is. I'm doing about 300 damage per uppercut into Shaft, and he is defeated quite handily. And now we can move on to the second part of the no damage challenge that I did, which is I will now be completing Richter any percent. Very similar to the speedrun route, except the goal again is to not take any damage. This took me less tries overall. I think I did this on my third try attempting with Richter, which is interesting considering Richter is probably the hardest character to do this challenge with, in all honesty. He's the highest chance of like failure, I would say, because Richter has very specific movement. His movement is invincible if you get it down. You see me doing these really fast blade dashes in the air. The blade dash is basically fully invincible except at the very, very start and the very, very end, unless I think it requires like close to a frame perfect input to stay fully invincible throughout the blade dash. But yeah, Richter's movement is insanely fast, very technical, requires very technical inputs to be doing all of this with the right spacing. Here, I've already lost 2 runs to some very silly damages, so I'm playing it a little safe overall. That was incredibly terrifying. I cannot believe I didn't get hit by that spittle bone. That was an input mistake that didn't end up costing me taking any damage here, so I'm a little freaked out, but it's fine. Here we do pick up that holy water. It is required for defeating bosses quickly, but yeah, with Richter, his fastest form of movement is sliding on the ground, but if you don't have access to sliding on the ground, you're going to be doing these blade dashes in the air. This room is very tricky to get around. Like we don't have the very aggressive diagonal input high jump that Maria has, so I have to do combinations of like high jumps and blade dashes, and then there's all these enemies that are underneath that if I miss a blade dash input, I'm just going to fall on top of an enemy and that's going to be run over. This is another scary room. If I'm a little bit too slow, those boomerang skeletons will throw boomerangs at me. That was a little scary there. And then yet again, another instance of the Black Crows. I definitely lost some runs to them. Here, I'm just lining up these blade dashes in specific spacings so I don't accidentally get hit. Here, I dropped a blade dash input. Thankfully, it didn't like force me into a bad spot. I just had to reset my positioning there, slide away, slide back in. Here, I'm resetting the room because I didn't like the spawn of that winged guard. Winged guards are just randomly spawning enemies that appear in this area, and I've had instances where I've spawned into a separate room, and the winged guard hitbox from the room before is still lingering there because this game doesn't register like hitboxes disappearing on like frame 0. It's like it waits a frame and then deletes the hitboxes. It's really weird. I didn't get a chance to talk about Hydrostorm. Hydrostorm is the item crash that you get with using the holy water. It is absolutely insane. It does insane amounts of damage, and you have the option to attempt to do a damage stacking glitch where you throw a holy water down on the ground while using Hydrostorm, and that causes essentially like multiple versions of the Hydrostorm hitbox to show up at once and just like stack on top of each other, and then it's just doing insane amounts of damage compared to just doing a normal Hydrostorm on its own. But yeah, that was a pretty fast first castle, all things considered. Nowhere near like world record speedrun pace, but still getting through relatively quickly and safely without taking much damage. Only 1 heart away from the ideal amount of hearts that you would have in this section, but I think I have some backup strats to make 68 hearts work for the end of the game. Here is a instance of a vault kick backflip. I don't know the exact name of it, but you can do the vault kick attack by sliding and then pressing the jump button again during the slide pretty quickly afterwards, and then that kick attack can be canceled by holding the attack button, which will make you do a backflip, and then you can cancel that backflip into another blade dash. So lots of fast technical movement options you have available as the Richter player. Right there I got a little bit of a damage stack. You can see the numbers stacking on top of each other. The actual effectiveness of the damage stack is effectively random, so sometimes you get a damage stack where you're doing like insane amounts of damage, like 1 damage every like 3 frames or something like that, and then sometimes it's actually slower than the normal input. Here I'm using the Hydrostorm to completely delete all of the enemies as they spawn in, because this room can be very, very tricky to get through without accidentally activating like an enemy hitbox right on top of you. It's absolutely annoying. This is another area with very tricky enemies to get through. I could do grounded blade dashes to be safe to get through them, which is basically what I'm doing here. But the Hydrostorm just gives me an extra failsafe in case something goes horribly wrong. But yeah, the route is the same for the most part between Richter and Maria in this challenge, because the goal is to just get to the end of the game as fast as possible without taking damage. Here I was like lining up a very specific position, because if you find yourself in a good position and then blade dash from that position, you're guaranteed to not hit any of those werewolves. So that's what I was setting up. This is another instance of being scared of the Asgal at the end of the game, because at this point I don't want my run to end. That guy is, oof, yeah, the way he swings his sword is, it's not like random necessarily, but it's a little unpredictable depending on your positioning. Oh, here I get a really, really good stairs room. That is very difficult to do, where you cancel your uppercuts into blade dashes over and over again. To be fair, Richter speedrunners are consistent at doing it, but yeah, it feels so good to do, because when you hit your head against the ceiling in this game, you have to wait at least 4 frames before you can input anything. Otherwise, the input buffer in this game just deletes those inputs. It's I don't know why that system exists. The same thing happens for Alucard. If you bump your head against a ceiling, it just like deletes your inputs if you're in the middle of trying to input something. You just don't see it with like other characters in this game, because most of the time you're not doing aerial spells or anything like that. Oh, I think something happened with my controller right there, and I ended up just walking off the ledge. Like one of the buttons got stuck or something. I'm doing a little celebratory dance. Let's go. Let's go. I'm excited that we got to the end of the game with Richter. I thought it was going to be much harder, but this was, like I said, my 3rd attempt, so I was very excited to have gotten through just fine. Another great damage stack to end it off with. And yeah, those were Maria and Richter no damage attempts to completion right there. So doing speedruns without taking any damage there. In the next video that I'm going to have, I'll be showing off the Alucard version of a no-hit speedrun as well. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be posting that soon. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.